fragmented state capacity. So the state is then not able, the state is not able to then function, the way it ought to function. And then the outcome of that is endemic insecurity. And so insecurity is actually an outcome. It is not a cause of underdevelopment. It is an outcome of underdevelopment. It is not the cause of bad governance. It is an outcome of bad governance, and so on and so forth. So the crisis that we face is interlocking. Development, governance, state capacity, and insecurity, they feed one another. The required response must also be integrated. So democratic governance, therefore, must be one that provisions the well-being and the security of people. And this is what our Constitution says in Chapter 2, Section 40, subsection 2B. So this dialogue, therefore, is not abstract. It is about our national survival, and it's also about transformation. So let's start taking the difficult questions. Democracy. And for me, so I share when Moses talks, and he talks about the questions that he raises about democracy. I share very much in that, really, because let us accept, for the purpose of our presentation and the purpose of our understanding, the most common popular definition of democracy is what? It's government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So the question, therefore, remains, who are the people? And every age determines who the people are. And that's why, even in under ancient Greece and in Greco-Roman societies, in ancient times, the Roman Republic and the rest of that, it was democratic. But it was democratic for less than 5% of the population. 95% of the population were either slaves or chattel workers. And they could not participate in that democracy. And then of the remaining 5%, who are the nobility and the freeborns, the nobles and the freeborns, nearly half of that population itself could not participate. Women were also excluded. So the question, therefore, is, who are the people? Or you go back to the founding of the United States of America and the American Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, blah, 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 blah. All men, mind you, women, not there. But that was also a nation that at that moment, the central driving of force of that society was slavery, the enslavement of Africans, of Black people. And of all the signers of the Declaration of Independence, not one single of them was not a slave owner. So again, it begs the question, but it was a democracy. So government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The question is, who are the people? And it is this tension, really, at the heart of society that is also the foundation of crisis, of grievance, and therefore of conflict. What then necessitates peace building and the work that we are doing. At the heart of that is this tension, this tug between who the people are. So in most liberal democracies that we currently have in the world today, the people are formally equal. We are all equal. There is formal legal equality. But are we really equal? Because when we then look at status, family background, power, and so on and so forth, the overwhelming majority of people in all of these countries that are liberal democracies are, to a very large extent, excluded in real terms from the democratic process. It is why, little wonder, therefore, that all over the world, except in moments when there is a ferment in society, where there has been popular mobilizing and organizing in society. When you hold elections, what's the turnout rate? Across the globe. In Nigeria, the last presidential election was 27%. So when you look at that, that shows you, one, already, that if people feel excluded from the democracy, from the dynamics in terms of the power that shapes that democracy and all of that, in terms of the gains from that democracy, that even when they make gains, they feel that they are being fed with the crumbs, while some people are feeding fat, then they are not going to be also interested, therefore, in elections. And if they are not interested in elections, they cannot be interested in post-election processes. At the center of that is this talk, this tension. Who are the people? And so democracy, therefore, we can say, is a work in progress. It's not a complete, democracy is not a complete thing. It's a work in progress. And that how inclusive and participatory a democracy is very much dependent on the character of the elite ruling class and on the resilience of citizens and essentially on active citizenship. Because it is only active citizenship, organizing and mobilizing, that pushes outwards the boundaries of what constitutes the people and then can then ensure that democracy becomes more inclusive. I mean, you go to the US today, there are conversations about redrawing electoral ward lines and so on and so districts and the rest of that. What are these conversations around really? It is about to exclude certain communities. So if you redraw it in a manner that those communities now become a minority in the new district, then it means that they cannot determine the outcome of election in that district. Again, that's really about who are the people, And so I say that it is our struggles as a people and our pushback against power that defines, the limits of the constraints that is put on people to exclude them from democracy. And so therefore, the more we struggle, the more inclusive democracy will become. I hope you are still hearing me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you very well.
Okay, all right. And so let's quickly now talk about governance, because what is it? When you say democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people, essentially, I thought you are saying that democracy is a form of government, and so it's a mechanism for governance. And so it's important that we also then very quickly look at governance. So what is governance? Governance includes processes, institutions, mechanisms, and social interactions. So processes for administering society, for administering an entity. That's why, for example, you have corporate governance. That's why you have civil society governance. That's why you have a board, for instance, and so on and so forth. So there are those processes. There are also the institutions that are established for that to happen. So you have the executive, you have the legislature, you have the judiciary, you have institutions under the executive, and so on and so forth. And then the mechanisms for that to happen. So the frameworks, the laws, the policies, the rules and the regulations that you put in place to drive the processes and the institutions. And essentially, when all of this is happening, none of this can happen without interactions between human beings. So you have social interactions. So it is all of this aimed at the administration of society to meet the common good that essentially we call governance. So our constitution says that the purpose of governance, I mean, it just really summarizes what's globally known, that the security and the welfare of the people is the purpose, is the primary purpose of governance. So what that also therefore means is that when you are now talking about democratic governance in this sense now, then it means that in provisioning the security and the welfare of the people, you are adding inclusion. It must be an inclusive process because it's a diverse society. It must be participatory. It must include the participation of all of these diverse, because there is really a difference between inclusion and participation. You can include people without those people participating. So participation is a higher level of engagement and involvement. Then again, there must be fairness, there must be equity, there must be equality, and then there must be social justice. And this is what should actually define, this should be the foundational pillars of democratic governance in fulfilling that purpose of provisioning the security and the welfare of the people. So since we are talking about moving from democracy to human security, and this is where we start seeing the linkage now. But let us quickly also have a conversation around human security. Human security is an approach to security that is people-centered. It's a shift from state-centered security, where people talk of national security and then equate national security with the security of the state, and then even go as far as to equate the security of the state with the security of the personnel of the state, and then even go even much further to then equate the security of the personnel of the state with the security of the head of the personnel of the state. And so you can see the degrees of whether totalitarianism, authoritarianism, dictatorship, and the rest of that. In a dictatorship, the head of the dictator is the state, and the security of the nation is the security of the state. It is the security of the dictator. The shift away from that is to see security as the security of the people, the security of persons, human beings, essentially. Because if we can guarantee the security of the people, then the security of the society will be guaranteed. The security of the community will be guaranteed. The security of the state will be guaranteed. The security of the personnel of the state will be guaranteed. The security of the head of the personnel of the state will also be guaranteed, rather than start from the top and then exclude everybody else. So basically, human security is hinged around three broad categories of freedom. Freedom from fear, that is safety of persons, communities, and property. Freedom from want, that is access to basic needs, food, shelter, health, education, livelihoods, and so on and so forth. Freedom to act, that is agency now, your ability to take action in your own interest as a person, as an individual, as a community, freedom to act. So human security moves security beyond the state, and then it centers people, communities, their dignity and agency, and multidimensional well-being. That's essentially the framework upon which human security is developed. Now, there are 7 dimensions of human security. And you would see, when you look at this is actually the dimensions of our life. This is what defines our life as human beings in a community. You know, as human beings, we don't live alone. We live in societies, and we are social beings. So this is what defines our life as social beings. There's economic security. This is about your livelihoods. It's your ability to earn a living. It's the livelihood systems, and so on and so forth. Then food security, which is around nutrition. Food security is sometimes also linked to food sovereignty, and so on and so forth. You can be food secure and not be food sovereign. When you are food sovereign, for instance, it means that you actually produce the bulk of the food that you eat. It's also possible to be food sovereign and not be food secure, because they're not the same thing. And food security is essentially that you have access. You can access all the nutritional requirements that you need as a human being, that the society needs. Usually the tendency is to try to move towards a situation where you can balance food sovereignty with food security. But you know that when you also talk about food security, then you are talking about agricultural systems and pathways. You are talking about also agro-based industry. You are talking about transportation, because you need to grow food, you need to process food, you need to transport food, you need to trade in food, and then consumers need to be able to access that food, afford it. So affordability, accessibility, and availability is at the heart of food security. Then we have health security, because essentially as human beings, if we are not in good health, then there's essentially it impinges on our ability to perform our duties, on our ability to meet our and provision our needs. And so health is a very essential, to that. You have environmental security. And this is the context in which we talk about natural resources management, natural resources governance. In the process of trying to meet our needs, we interact with nature. And then in our interaction with nature, we change and affect nature. Environmental security is about ensuring that the way we interact with nature and the way that we affect nature is such that it is not detrimental to the capacity of nature to replenish itself, and therefore the capacity of nature to provide the sustenance that we need. So, for example, when people talk today about the impact of fossil fuels, greenhouse gases, global warming, and climate change, that's essentially what we are really talking about. Now, personal security, this is individual at the individual level, your own person, your own self as a person. How safe are you? How secure do you feel? How do you experience freedom from want? How do you experience freedom from fear? How do you experience freedom to act? And so on and so forth. And then you have the community, because first and foremost, we live in communities. So, and our own individual security is also tied to the security of the community. It's only dictators who think that they can be secure while the community is not secure. And so if we can put in mechanisms in place that assures the security of every individual, then we're actually ensuring the security of the community. And then, of course, there is political security. And political security is essentially about also governance. It's about participation in governance. So how do you experience that? From the dimension of fear, from the dimension of want, from the dimension of agency? How do you experience that? And remember our conversation around democracy and the tension at the heart of democracy in terms of what constitutes the people. So that's why the human security approach is actually if you want to improve our democratic experience, then essentially we can only do that applying the human security approach. So accountability, because we are talking about rebuilding accountability. So the very first thing I want to say is that when you look at the thing, when you say rebuild accountability, participation, and community resilience, our assumption is that we are in the crisis that we are at the moment because we have more or less demolished accountability. There is no participation, and community resilience is also shaken. And so we want to Because otherwise, if they are strong, they are positive, they are okay, we would not need to rebuild them, and we will not be in the crisis that we have. So accountability builds trust when public actors follow through on commitments. It drives improvement by learning from mistakes and correcting costs. It enforces good governance through ethical conduct and responsible use of resources. And so rebuilding accountability requires clear expectations, early correction, ownership. So this ownership, underlying ownership is inclusivity, is ensuring participation, is ensuring fairness and equity. That's how you can get ownership. And so the process is owned. And so the three pillars of accountability are that the entity or the individual or the personnel is answerable, that there are consequences for wrongdoing, and that the processes are transparent. That means that the processes are open, and everybody can see that they are open. Pardon me. We are going to be rounding up very soon. Citizen participation beyond the election only democracy, so that because right now for most democracies, citizen participation is really just during the election, and we have seen that across the world, voter turnout rates are declining, except when there is a crisis and there are very significant issues that people feel connected to that affect their lives. That's where you see massive turnout. But even at that, those turnouts are just barely above the average. So and then people talk about voter apathy, citizen disengagement from democracy, but it's actually not citizen disengagement from democracy. It is more of citizen expulsion from democracy, because it is not citizens who have disengaged. It is the guardians of the democratic system who have excluded and created and erected barriers for citizens to participate. So citizen participation would include these four pillars: being consulted, being informed, being included, and being represented. So people can be consulted and not included. They can be consulted, partially informed. And you can have all of these, and then people are not represented. And so how do you also ensure that your representation mechanism is such that it captures and accommodates all the diversity of society? And in liberal democracy today, this is simply done by looking at the demography. So you look at the young people, women, you look at identities, ethnic minorities, religious minorities, and the rest of that. What we don't look at are economic identities, poor and rich, and so on and so forth. And so then essentially the poor and the lower middle classes are essentially shut out of democracies and they become bystanders who are then mobilized to participate in elections. So participation, I'm saying here, should cover the...
Thank you, sir. So please, 2 minutes, if you can help us, round up. I know there's just a whole lot to talk about. Thank you.
I will try to round up. I will try to round up. So participation should cover the full policy cycle: formulation, implementation, evaluation, and then policy review. Let's look at community resilience. Essentially, it's the capacity of a community to withstand shocks, to overcome, and to recover from those shocks. Again, 4 dimensions or pillars. There is the social part of it, the economic part of it, there's the environmental part of it, nature resource management, like we said, and there's also the personnel, that's physical and mental health resources available in the community. Economic resources available in the community, the social resources available, networking, associations, clubs, and so on. Natural spaces, sustainability, climate adaptation, and the rest of that. So community resilience is both the process and outcome of community governance. Measuring and rebuilding community resilience would, what we have done here is to use the human security framework to then design a framework for measuring and rebuilding community resilience. So you have governance, you have community governance, you have to look at and access community governance, that's the community institutions. You have to assess safety and security in the community. You have to access food and nutrition in the community, that's food security. You have to access relationships within the community. You have livelihood systems. And then you have to assess natural resource governance, justice and fairness. You have to look at relationship with state, so local government, state government, and then you have to look at the community health resources. That will enable you to access the resilience level of the community, and you can develop a community resilience index using this, so that you can then track community resilience perspective. For example, security, insecurity in the different communities. So what's been our central argument so far? Democratic governance is the foundation of human security, while human security is the bedrock of community resilience. Without accountability and participation, democracy becomes simply procedural. And without human security, governance fails its primary purpose. So you can see the flow: democratic governance, accountability and participation, human security, and then community resilience. In that flow. So what should our reform agenda be? To make governance local, practical, and participatory. That's actually that sums it up. So we require to reform local government, the system of local government administration, so that it becomes effective, democratic, and service-oriented. So this famous conversation around local government autonomy. We need to strengthen community governance and the ability of the community to administer itself. So community self-administration, because these are really the frontline systems for resilience. Resilience being a function of social cohesion, which is also a function of the relationship between institutions in the communities. We would need to institutionalize, put in mechanisms and measures to institutionalize citizen participation beyond elections. So ward, community forums, policy feedback circles, and the rest of that. World development programs, and then ensuring world congresses where communities can sit down to design and develop that. But you can't have that where you don't have effective community self-administration. We need to embed public accountability. So there should be clear expectations, there should be transparent reporting, and then there should be consequences for non-performance. And then we need to align security, development, and civic space around the 7 dimensions of it. The argument is that if politics is local, then governance, security, and development are also local. What's the call to action for this dialogue? government, around government, we need open governance. We need to disclose performance, and we need to deepen local reforms. To the communities, we have to rebuild cohesion in communities, institutions, and shared problem solving. Civil society, organize citizens, monitor delivery, strengthen accountability, and then partners invest in systems that link security, development, and civic agency. And finally, democracy must become a daily system for securing dignity, well-being, agency, and resilience of the people. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that robust and explicit keynote speech. Thank you so much. Please yes, I can see the clap going off. Thank you so much, sir, for that. Indeed, this has really strengthened the team for today. And I like the final thought. Democracy must become a daily system for securing dignity, well-being, agency, and resilience. Thank you so much once again for joining us again today, sir. So we'll be moving quickly, and I'll be welcoming Mr. Moses Abalade to take over with the panel discussion. So we'll be able to manage time. Thank you. Mr. Moses? Oh, I see your network.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, sure, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. Just like we have Mr. Nathaniel Wopila, who is also a professor of practice. I think Mr. Jaye Gaskia is also a professor of practice when it comes to this conversation. And I want to say thank you so much for that. That was very, very enlightening. Thank you so much, dearest Egbo, and for this great opportunity to learn from you. And we'll be going straight into the other session. I just hope that my network and everything around here will work in my favor. But if anything happens, I'm secured, just so that it's beyond my control. So let's go straight into the conversation fully. We have our panelists here already, and I'll be introducing them first before we go into the panel conversation. And I just want to know, in case I did not, I'm trying to see. Okay. So in case, I would like to know if any of them, I know we have Mr. Nathaniel, but I cannot see the entire screen. In case, I know that Raquel should be on the call. I also believe that Zigwai, I saw Zigwai earlier. I'm not so sure of Dengiefa. If you are online, please also let me know when you come online. I know he's in a conference actually outside the country, and I'm so sure that we reach the time. So we understand if you are unable to find a place to stay and have this conversation. But I believe he's going to join us as we go. So let me start with Mr. Nathaniel Imsen Awopila with his brief bio. And I just want to confirm again, because I'm having some issues here, if I am very audible. Winner, can you confirm?
Yes, please, you are.
Okay, thank you so much. He has 4 names here, and it can be difficult for me to pronounce one of them, so I will exclude that one. But I might also try. Nathaniel, Mr. Nathaniel Imsen Igbazua Awapila is a peace-building strategist and protection expert with nearly 3 decades of professional engagement in education, humanitarian response, social services, and conflict management. He is the 4th and immediate past president of the Society for Peace Studies and Practice, 2022 to 2026, and currently serves as the pioneer head of Conflict Prevention and Resolution Department of the Nigerian Forest Security Service. By the way, we'll talk about this foresters maybe another time, which most likely will be bringing him on for that specifically. With the rank of Assistant Commander General, ACG. He shares the forum on farmers and farmer-elder relations in Nigeria, FAN, and the National Expert Board of the Safeguarding Resources and Support All, RSH. Is consulting editor of the Women, Peace and Security Journal and a council member of the International Peace Bureau. His portfolio spans facilitation of justice and security dialogue with UCIP 2015 to 2023. There are a lot of other things on that profile, and I would just want to sum it up that he has been a great ally to PEPNET, and he has also served on the board of advisory for PEPNET at a point. So we want to welcome you fully to this panel conversation. Please, can we use our emojis to please welcome Mr. Nathaniel Awopila, who has over 30 years of experience in this space. Thank you so much. And is a mentor to most of us in Peacebuilding in Nigeria. The next person I'll be welcoming on board is Mrs. Raquel Kasham Daniel. Raquel Kasham Daniel is a social entrepreneur, author, and media strategist, passionate about advancing education and opportunities for children and adolescent girls across Africa. She is the founder and executive director of Beyond the Classroom Foundation, a non-profit organization focused on education, access, child safeguarding, menstrual health education, and girls' empowerment in underserved communities. Through her work, she has led initiatives that have impacted thousands of children and families across Nigeria. With so much energy, please, I want you to welcome Mrs. Raquel Daniel Kasham. I used to call her RKD, and I think she has several nicknames from different people. I just realized one recently. So welcome on board. Thank you so much. Yeah. The next person on the list is another powerful woman in the governance and peace space. And that is Sigwai Tagwai. Miss Sigwai Tagwai is a development professional and humanitarian activist working at the intersection of gender, public policy, civic participation, and peace building. She is the founder of Zaza Development Initiative, a non-profit organization. Sorry, excuse me. Okay, advancing sustainable development across Africa through civic education, mentorship, advocacy, and community engagement. She currently serves as program lead, democracy and governance under the EU SDGN 2 gender component, where she drives gender responsive governance initiative, combining research, policy engagement, and strategic convenings to strengthen women's political participation. There are several other things that you might need to know about Sigwai Tagwai. Possibly you might need to check our other platforms to know more, because I don't want to keep us waiting. So thank you so much for joining in. Please, with a round of applause virtually, please help me welcome all our amazing guests to the panel seats. Thank you so much. So we'll be going straight to the questions. I know I'm used to some of us on this panel, and that is really one reason why I'm taking it upon myself to moderate this panel, because I know that we have so much to say, and I think I'm the only one that can say please and please, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and all that. So I want to beg of you, let's have an agreement like we do in mediation. Please, we will just have it 2 to 3 minutes for the first round, possibly because we want to also give time for the audience to ask questions, and that's why we are doing this. But I'm so sure that we will also still have other times to still talk. Everybody is in-house technically, so we still have means to still talk about this. But let's go straight to some of these questions. I don't know if Diefa is here. Dengi, are you here? Before I move to the questions, Dengi Yefa. So Winner or Joy or anybody, if you notice his presence, please let me know so that I can integrate him into this panel conversation. He's actually doing something very good in Canada, currently in a conference, but I just hope he can meet up with this. So are you here? Dengi?
No, it's not yet. I said all right, so
okay.
I'll notify. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's start with one of our powerful women on the panel. So this goes to Raquel. Given your work in education, girls empowerment, and your work with Beyond the Classroom Foundation and other community engagement work you've been doing, how can education really serve as a tool for advancing human security and strengthening community resilience in Nigeria? But you can also broaden it as much as you feel like sharing with us in 2 to 3 minutes. Thank you so much, Raquel.
Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador Moses, for inviting me. If anyone can hear me, just send a thumbs up or an emoji. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much for that question. Because I work at the intersection of education, sexual health and reproductive health with adolescent girls. It's protection and security is a very important issue. And I believe that education plays a role in strengthening human security and in also building resilience in our communities. Because if you look at it, you go to a community where people are not educated. They don't easily spot issues around. So when they see a stranger around their community, they are not informed to know that, hey, something must be going on. We need to be careful with the people around us. And so for me, I believe that it needs to start from the classroom, which is one of the best places to start, where children are. And it also leads to raising a generation that values accountability. So if there's a new person in your community, for instance, you are saying, is this person one of us? And you are cautious to say, yes, it's okay for us to coexist, but it's also powerful to also teach that values to children and to also adults, especially children, so that they can pay attention to their surrounding. And I also think that we mistake a lot of times the idea of education. We believe that education has to happen in the classroom. It can happen outside of the classroom. So when we say education and security, it's not necessarily just education to children. Yes, we're educating children in school, but we need to also educate the wider society in the sense that organizations or parastatals or ministries like the National Orientation Agency can educate the population about security issues in Nigeria. That's also education. Doesn't necessarily have to be something that's happening in a classroom. So if a child is taught in school and then sees things around their home or in their community that, oh, you need to be attentive to things that happen in your community, to your school. You need to know when somebody is harassing you or saying things to you that really needs to help you pay attention to report. You know how we say, when you see something, you say something. If a child is taught that in school, the child takes that from home to school to home and to their wider community, so that when something like this happens, they can raise an alarm. So we need to invest in quality education, yes, but we also need to invest in educating the population about security in Nigeria, about security in our homes, about security in our schools, about securities in the market, in different places. And so the conversation needs to go beyond just schools to even when you hang out with your friends, you go to a restaurant, you're in the marketplace. How are you paying attention to what is happening around you? So for me, I would agree that education strengthens human security. I agree very well. And that we need to educate our children and all that. But also we need to pay attention to educating adults, because education goes beyond the four walls of the classroom. And if there's one thing that I want to leave with us today, I don't know if I have another question, is
No,
that
you still
we must create programs in schools about security and peace for children specifically. We must create those programs that happen in a classroom. Just like you teach children math, English, social studies, you should teach them security in school. So I see that happening a bit. People are teaching cyber security and all that, but also, environmental security is also a need. And we must, when we educate children, I believe that the children take it from their classroom to their community at large. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just like I said, I think I'm the only one that can do this shooking of our of our panelists because there's a lot to say, and she has even touched on a lot of things. If I don't know if you can see this, we have been with NERDC. I don't know if you can see what's in my hand. This is Peace Education for Secondary School Manual, and thank God for this conversation. Because we are trying to even move beyond conversation to doing a lot of things. But there are some institutions that are not giving us a breathing space to do them. We just got, after making a lot of work, going to register to get this process, we just got another information about the Nigeria NERDC changing their process and all that. We've made payment for this whole thing, and Nigeria should not happen to us. That's another thing. Why am I saying this? Because you mentioned security books and all that. We have a lot already. The major thing is distribution. The major thing is also consolidating our strength and all that. I'll still be coming back to you later, but let's go to Mr. Nathaniel. And we'll still discuss this better to see how we can also collaborate. I know you have a lot of things you are doing with media houses and all that. How can we make this wider? We are looking at distributing this for 10 million students and all that. How can we actually improve that? And how do we convince government institutions that this is not going to cause more problem? Some of them, the way they are thinking is a bit different from how we are thinking. So let me go to Mr. Nathaniel for the next question. As someone with extensive experience in peace building, conflict prevention, citizen engagement, mediation, and policy advocacy, which I have also experienced and passed through some of this, how can Nigeria move from democratic processes, which is just elections, we are preparing every 4 years, and how do we move from just, we must operate democracy to, we must see dividends of democracy. We must see it play out in the living condition of everybody. Currently, I'm using solar. I don't know how many of you use solar. Currently, I'm risking it because a lot of things are at stake too. So how do somebody like me and everybody listening can say, democracy is beyond just we going every 4 years for elections? And I want you to do I know it will be more than 3 minutes, but I want to see how we can do that between 3 and 4 minutes. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me just confirm if the audio is clear enough, if you can hear me. All right, thank you. And I won't say more without beginning by saying that the guest speaker really addressed these issues very deeply, and I thank him for already introducing the question you have asked me and dealing with it so thoroughly. So you asked the question, and you also started by trying to analyze where we are. I think I will say that we moved from where we were trying to practice democracy to where we are trying to practice what seems to be democracy. Now it's not so much about did the elections happen. It's more about did the results come? Because sometimes when actual voting doesn't take place, you still get results. And the last primaries we had, there's evidence that some of the elections, after they were conducted, the results announced, they had to withdraw the list to go and find a way to manage. And the list that came out now has people that were not winners appearing as winners. So whether that is democracy is a question for another day. But it looks like what we're doing now is moving from what we used to know as democracy to what seems to be democracy, comprising the electoral process and so on. Sorry if you're hearing a background sound. I'm doing this from home, and the children just walked in. I hope the noise doesn't get loud enough, because I'm sure they're also trying to manage themselves. All right, so but let's and let me just also highlight this quickly, and then I will jump into the heart of the question. So democracy should promise and deliver a few things. You know, you're talking about human security, and Dr. Gaskia already highlighted the seven dimensions of human security. But let me just say that when democracy does not promise and assure you of security in all its dimensions, then you have not started getting the dividends of democracy. When it does not assure you of justice, whether it's justice on the streets, whether it's justice in the courts, whether it's justice through the bureaucratic processes of a society, then you're not getting the dividends of democracy. When it also does not assure you of opportunities, when opportunities arise, which you qualify for, and it doesn't look like the most qualified are accessing it, or where there is no equity in opportunities, because it's not just about the best should have it. It's also that everyone should have it. So when there doesn't appear to be equity, we are those who are less, who have less access to the opportunities that those who have in the main urban cities, for example, have, then there's a problem. So you want democracy to promise and deliver on security in all its dimensions, on justice in all its dimensions, and on opportunity creation, access to opportunities, and outcomes for opportunities that we benefit from. And on all of these, there's deficit. There's deficit. Now, we have also moved, let me highlight this. We have also moved very quickly from a situation where the ordinary citizen used to feel insecure to where even the elite, the high and mighty, are now no longer feeling secure. When a retired major general can be kidnapped, that's not a joke, because even in retirement, generals have protection. And then, was it 2 days ago, we had General Buratai, former chief of army staff, coming on air and saying, look, in the future, we're going to have senators, ministers, and governors attacked. And then less than 24 hours after he spoke, NIPS, Kuru, was attacked, with some people killed. Now, you can imagine the kind of people that are in NIPS. If they successfully went to the accommodation section of NIPS, then you will probably hear that some former ministers or serving ministers, with the police officer that was killed, I understand, is their aide to the former deputy inspector general of police. You can imagine the kind of people that are at Kuru. But this is not where these people seem to be going. It's bigger than that. That's, again, is a conversation for another day. So we are looking at democracy that should be able to deliver in the areas that are highlighted earlier. But if you're talking about delivering on these, like Dr. Gaskia mentioned earlier, accountability is key. Accountability. Now, but before we talk about accountability, we want to be sure that those in governance are assuring the ordinary citizen of opportunities to interrogate, to make sure that the policies that they put in place are actually implemented as documented, and that, people feel protected across, the platforms where policies are being implemented.
Okay.
People would expect to have policing that is effective on their streets, in their communities, not just policing system that protects government institutions and so on. I mentioned equity. We don't need to say too much about that, because it's an area of importance, like we all know. Now, you also need to be sure, democracy must guarantee that when civil society speaks, they are not treated as upstarts. They are not treated as anti-government. They are not treated as a part of the problem, but they should be treated as partners. And so civil society should be able to raise key questions about how governance is going. There should be, the Freedom of Information law Act guarantees access to these. But one should not have to quote the Freedom of Information Act before a government official acts. Civil society should be able to access, information, even if it's a project behind the street you're doing. A community association should be able to ask government, whether it's government at the local level, at the state level, at the national level, what is the budget for this project? We want to see the budget. Who is doing it? How much are you paying? And all of this. That transparency should be there. And then communities should be able to say, now we want to check the quality of what is being done. Not just that you finish the project and their own is to take and thank you and clap for you and say we'll vote for you again. People should be involved in these processes, including the ordinary citizen. The ordinary citizen should be able to walk into the Honorable Speaker's office, into his constituency office, where members of the House of Assembly are supposed to have offices, or indeed into any offices. Today, some governors are mini gods. Before you see a governor, you see them only on the screens. You can't walk to the house and expect to see a governor. Even if you have an appointment, you can go there and have to wait for sometimes days or
Hello. Winner, I think it's freezing from your head. Can you hear him?
No, I can't hear him. I think it's his network.
Okay, maybe it's network. Mr. Nathaniel.
As if you're a refugee.
Okay,
under a system, under democracy that delivers on outcomes. I walk in and be able to see my governor within hours, not within days. But
okay, sir. Can you hear me? Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
I guess his network is fluctuating.
Yeah, Mr. Nathaniel, I will come back to you. And I think you have given us a very good opening. So, sir, I will come back to you, especially on this issue of, we'll still think around it properly to see, should we replace these people? Or should we be thinking of, keep on doing it from the civil society level and giving them policies they might not read or not? So we'll still discuss this further. But let me go to Zigwai. Zigwai, drawing from your experience working with different youth groups and in democracies and development and policy, public policy and the rest. That also goes to you. What do you think is the role of young people and community actors to strengthen governance? How easy it is for somebody who might not be comfortable by themselves to be thinking of, I want to go and seek accountability. And do you think, several questions in one, Abi, don't be scared. I think the last part of it, which I just wanted to touch on, is the synergy among youth groups. We know that there is a bit of different classification of youth groups that go out and do a lot of things. How do we synergize and really make governance really work for us in a proper way? So you can just pick from any of this and share to us what you think. Zigwe. And Zigwe.
You're going to take from my time and I'm going to take it back.
Okay. But please, three minutes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much to PEPNET for the invitation. And thank you to everybody on the call for not just joining, but also for staying through till this time. Thank you for the stage that Mr. Jaye Gaskia set for us. I think he pretty much did the work. I will just quickly go through the question I was asked. We've been talking about June 12th and the reflections on the journey so far and how well we've come and all. And for us, we need to know that as young people and as different actors within the space, democracy is not an end in itself, but it is a means to an end. And I love the fact that the keynote speaker focused on this human security angle of it, because a lot of times it's about the dividends of democracy. It's about what's the impact, what's the final benefit you get as an individual, and how are you contributing to that process? It's about safety, dignity, opportunity, and ability for every Nigerian to live a full life, or every human being. And I believe that we need to start pondering about what your role is as individuals in the spaces you belong to. You know, we're not just accountability, we're not just young people, we're not just individuals, or as I've heard before, and working across the different spaces. We cannot continue to remain the builders of what we want to see by being active in the spaces that we belong to. For example, a lot of us are, I don't know if it's a thing of refusing to acknowledge the fact that we are suffering the brunt of the failure of the democracy that we're practicing to actually benefit us. It could be, for me, a thing of context. How do we contextualize democracy that we want to work for us within our space? Which means that you don't just have a right to benefit, you have a responsibility to shape the decisions that bring about the benefits that you need. It goes beyond just protest or advocacy. These are very deep and very important. But we need to be able to ask ourselves, are we sitting in the spaces where decisions are made? Are we, as community actors, on the tables when budgets are being drawn up, when development plans are being written, when security responses? You need to remember that if you are not on the table, you are on the menu. It's that simple. If you are not on the decision-making table, you are the one that is to be fed. So we need to, as groups, whether women, youth, persons with disabilities, traditional institutions, ourselves actively in decision-making rooms and goals. But the people believe in us. It is us that mobilizes people in our different spaces. How are we carrying the trust of the people? How are we building the foundation of legitimacy? How are we bringing in the right people into the government? And how are we ensuring that there's transparency and accountability in the roles that the government plays? So the role of the community actors, the young people and different actors is a connectivity role, bridging citizens and the state, holding both sides accountable. How are you playing your role? How are you filling the governance gap? And how are you ensuring that you are leaving no one behind? I think we need to also move beyond elections. Voting is just an aspect. Democratic participation, we need to mobilize beyond election. I know that you are tired. I know that you are disappointed. I know that people have come and gone. But one thing that I'm also very sure about is that governance happens every day, not every 4 years. A budget is passed every day. A contract is awarded. One school is left without teachers. I'm glad Raquel is here and she's in the education space. A borehole is abandoned. I hear Moses talking about solar happening every day. How are you engaging to ensure that these areas are being addressed? A citizen who only shows up for election day is missing out 1,460 days of accountability opportunity to be able to engage.
Okay. Hello, Zigwai, can you hear me? Winner, can you hear me? Seems we lost her.
Yes. Network is also fluctuating, and I think
Okay, I think she's back.
Mr. Nathaniel is also back as well.
Yeah,
So
Zigwai.
yes.
Zigwai,
Please, at what point did you lose me?
I just recently. What will happen is I'll still bring you back. I think Dengiefa just joined us. So we got to the point where you are listening the situation and how people miss out on opportunities for the rest of the year side elections. So just hold your thoughts and we'll come back to get from the other part of, because I will still ask you one more question or two. So Dengiefa, let me just introduce Dengiefa briefly. Dengiefa Angalapu is a political scientist, currently a research analyst at the Center for Democracy and Development. That's CDD. He is also a virtual fellow of the SOAS Center for Pan-African Studies. Dengue is interested. Okay. Dengue is interested in addressing developmental challenges in the global south. His research primarily explores conflict related to natural resources management, including violence induced by climate change, crude oil dispute, and mining related conflict. Dengue expertise also extend to security sector reform, maritime security, terrorism, environmental politics, and sustainability. Flaviana, I know you're raising your hand. We will still have a time for questions and answer. But if it's a comment you want to make, you can use the chat box. But we'll still give room for questions and answers soon. So Dengue, are you there? I would like to see your face if possible, or if you're having issues with your network. By the way, how is Canada?
Good morning.
And sorry for the inconveniences caused by this, but we are glad to have you around. So let's just go to one of the questions really quick. Just like others have discussed, I want you to, as a political scientist and governance analyst, how can Nigeria really bridge the gap between democratic institutions and the everyday security and well-being needs by the citizens? Just like we have been talking, we want to move from just, oh, government is doing this and all that. How do we bridge it that people can feel safe? Because that's how they feel like democracy is working. So how do we bridge that gap between democratic institutions and how everyday Nigerian or Africans or people on this call feel safe as a citizen of any place they have? Thank you. Maybe in 3 minutes. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. First, I apologize for joining late. I mean, good morning from this part of the world. It is simple in my opinion, and the answer is also in the question that you asked. Institutions do not get legitimacy by default. They get legitimacy by performance. So when democratic institutions begin to perform the duties that they were structured, that they were built to perform, automatically, legitimacy and security, will come. So the fact, the disconnection between everyday security and democratic institutions in Nigeria, it's something that it is very predictable, it is natural, it will happen in any system where institutions do not perform or perform the way they are performing in Nigeria. So for example, you don't expect a man that pays the vigilantes, to guard his house, to guard his properties, to regard the Nigerian policing system or security system across the board as one that he should be 100% loyal to. You have given him a platform where he now survives on its own. It does not really need to depend on the state for his own security and all that. So the more citizens depend on a particular system and the more the system delivers, the more the legitimacy of that system, the more the legitimacy that system has, and the more respect citizens accord to that particular system. So just to summarize, it is just about performance. When institutions perform, the natural reactions of citizens is to accord it legitimacy. Unfortunately, the systems that we have not worked to the extent to which, it will build confidence in Nigeria that democratic systems are naturally better than other systems of government. Let's not forget, it is as a result of the fact that the military system was not working as it should. That was why, there were different advocacies for this democracy to come. And now, sadly, there are now calls for us to even go back to the military. I don't support it, right? But then there are now calls for us to even go back to the military. And if you look at it across board, it is simply about performance. Once something does not serve the utilitarian value that was meant to, to serve, it becomes useless. I mean, there are two words, useful and useless. Nobody accords respect to something that is useless. And by useless, what's the definition of useless? You are not being used for anything. You cannot be used for anything. So when you say you are there to protect lives and property, and then you are not doing that job that you need to do, right? Automatically, it becomes useless in quote. And citizens, of course, would not want to associate themselves with something that is useless, in quote. So in summary, performance is what links institutions to the acts of citizens.
Thank you so much, Dengi. So let me just continue with you, then we'll go back to everyone. The second question is about recommendation, and that is what everybody will be talking. We want to move to practical recommendations. What do you recommend? And everybody will be discussing the same thing. What do you recommend from your own perspective, from your own experience, to really make us have this feel of good governance? Not even democracy, good governance. How do we experience it, and how do we move from where we are right now to that point in 2 to 3 minutes? Thank you.
Yeah, so very simple. This recommendation is not from the government, because I have not seen in history, where the oppressors, give power easily to the oppressed. So this recommendation basically is to all of us. It's for us not to give up. It's for us to vote. It is for us to hold the system accountable. It is for us to keep pushing the frontiers of freedom, right? It is for us to ensure that through social media, whatever means that we have, we try to hold the government accountable. Because if we think that the change that we want will come from the government that is enjoying all of the profitability of this kind of a disjointed, bad system, it is not going to come from them. And we must realize that. So we must begin to hold the government accountable in different ways. And we shouldn't give up. We shouldn't be tired, because whenever you're tired, you're giving that level of leverage, that level of leeway for the government to do whatever it likes. So it is for us, the citizens. Again, nobody uses power against themselves. So the government has the power at this particular moment. They would not use it against itself. So we have to take up this power through all of the legitimate means possible and ensure that we push on the frontiers of good governance and freedom. So that is the only way. So it is not a recommendation for the government. If you're waiting for the government to do it, in my opinion, that change will hardly come from the government. And in fact, it will take a miracle for a government that enjoys all of the kind of impunity and the kind of there is so much freedom in corruption in Nigeria that I am not sure anybody that enjoys that kind of freedom will want to automatically say, oh, take this freedom away. So we have to keep pushing and see that change comes from the bottom, and we shouldn't be tired.
Dengi, thank you so much. I know your schedule is very tight, but also, we have a plan to have another one-on-one session, most likely, or a podcasting. And I think we need more of that, and to ensure that we speak further and we educate others more. Zigwai, can we get your own recommendation on this? You can also link it with what you have said earlier in 2-3 minutes.
Okay, so just to confirm, first of all, that you can hear me, so that we don't do what we did last time. I'm so sorry.
Yes. No.
I kept
was good.
thinking that you could hear me.
Yes, it was just a
Okay.
little part that was, but you're good.
Awesome. All right. So let me just link that. And then, so next steps, how do we move forward, and actions? I think first we need to understand our obligations are right. Like I mentioned earlier, we have so many information pool that we can get things from, and we can engage, from the Freedom of Information Act to the Open Government Partnership Commitments to local government allocation figures, which are very public. But we know that a lot of Nigerians do not know what are owed them or what they need to even ask for. So we could start with these basic documents that are easily accessible. And I think we need to always emphasize, I heard Raquel earlier mention national orientation should inform people. I think we also need to go beyond waiting for people to teach you or people to bring information to your table. Civic literacy is not a luxury. It is an infrastructure. It is the foundation, the wall. It is everything, the roof you need to be able to push for certain things. If you are not well informed, like our keynote speaker said, you cannot engage properly, and people will know when you are engaging empty. Second, we need community level accountability structures. In what we call positive peace framework, we work with pillars like free flow of information. That means communities need to know that their government is doing, what their government is doing, how their government is doing certain work, and how they can engage. and how they can respond when resources are not used right, what resources are available, and so on. Community scorecards are very important. Participatory budgeting, town hall tracking mechanisms, these are all tools that already exist and we can use to engage. We need to be able to use these things properly. And that is where democracy becomes human security, not in the ballot box, but in our everyday life. So one thing I would leave us with is I encourage every citizen to refuse to be governed without their consent. You need to be knowledgeable. You need to take responsibility and take action. It's not about what they can do for me, what they can do for me. How are you engaging so that you can beat your chest and say, truly, I engage the process. And I'm waiting to see how the process will respond to my engagement and mobilize other people to do the same with you. We need to be intentional. Beyond these meetings that we have, when we finish as actors within the space, what are you doing in your space? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sigwai, for that wonderful recommendations and call to action. And I want to say, just like I told Dengi, we also have a lot of work to do as practitioners to move this message. PEPNET went to NSA recently. I think I have one of the NSA staff also on this call, possibly. NSA is Office of the National Security Advisor to the Nigerian government, and we went there to present some stuff. I want to say that there's a lot going on, and there, just like Zigwai said, there's a lot. We cannot wait for them to come and meet us. We have to take actions and go to meet them, and I'm sure that with time we are going to get there. So, Raquel, in 3 minutes, I know there's a lot from that's your first download. There's a lot we can unravel there, but just your recommendations and what we can do better to move from just democracy thing to human security and how people, children, either in school or out of school, how will they feel that they are secured and they are part of this entire system, and they will be able to say, oh, democracy works. Briefly, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador Moses. I think the what I would say about children feeling inclusive is if you teach them about it. A lot of times they don't feel like they're included because they're not thought about it. And I love that you shared the manual and the books that you're creating on education and peace education in schools. If you want to teach about democracy, you want to teach about the governance, you want to teach about politics, you want to teach about anything for children, the best way is to ensure that it's taught in their curriculum, in their classroom. And that's how they feel like it's a part of life. One. Secondly, it has to be modeled. The adults have to model what it is that we're teaching them in the classrooms. So if they can see when they have prefectship elections in school, it is free and fair in school. That is their first encounter with democracy in school. So teachers are not picking and choosing who should lead them in school. They are allowed to choose their leaders, and it is free and fair in school. So it is modeled, it is taught first, it is modeled, and also it's modeled, not just modeled also, but also shown at home, modeled not just in school, but at home. And they can see hierarchy at home, fairness at home with siblings, there's no favoritism. So for children, it is when you see it from every area of their life, and they're not just teaching them, but also showing them. So I believe that the government can do a lot, but also parents can do a lot. And we as adults that have access to children can also do a lot. So beyond this conversation, how are you modeling fairness to children? How are you modeling objectivity to children? How are you modeling civic responsibility to children? Majority of us are not going to vote, and our children are watching us. So there's so much about democracy, about politics, about civic responsibility, about peace education that we can teach children, but they learn faster after teaching to modeling. So we need to go beyond just talking to them and teaching them in manuals, to actually showing them that this works and this is possible.
Thank you so much, Raquel, for that. And I can say that also means that we have a lot of things to work on, a lot of work on our desk, and especially peace education for families. That's another project that PEPNET is brief. We have been thinking about it, but we need a lot of hands on that because home front is a very thing that gives birth to whatever we now have in schools. And I think there's a lot of work on our desk, and I'm sure we are going to do a lot together with beyond the classroom foundation. So thank you so much. Mr. Nathaniel, our professor in practice, who would like to, and I can always call you Prof. Sir. Prof. Sir, can you help us with few recommendations to look at how do we move from just theoretical understanding of democracy and looking at it from an institutional level to feeling it directly in our day-to-day life? Mr. Nathaniel, are you there?
I'm here, and I
Okay.
thank you very much. The other time, network cut me off. I don't know how much you heard, but thank you for this opportunity. So two things. One is that democracy was intended to be a very practical thing. The designers of democracy expected that people who get into positions of leadership do so by the vote of the people putting them there. So the basic understanding was that we are putting you there. We're establishing a system, a mechanism by which people who get into positions of leadership do so by virtue of the choice of the people putting them there. Please, could you confirm if you can still hear me, because the screen has frozen? Can you confirm? My screen froze.
Yes, it's good,
We
sir.
can hear
Go
you.
ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir. Thank you, sir.
You can hear me? Okay,
Yes.
okay, thank you. So if that is what okay, thank you. So thank you. So if that is what democracy is, then democracy was designed to be a very practical thing. Put you in authority, you serve us.
Hello,
A lot of sense to say.
go ahead, sir. Seems this network is breaking.
That makes people feel excluded. And recently I did a research that shows that half, it wasn't a national study, a state level study, but it showed that in that state, half the people feel excluded. Now, like, when Mr. Gaskia was talking, he talked about the four levels. When you talk about participation, is that it's not enough that people are consulted. You should get to the point of representation. And in Nigeria, young people don't feel represented. You have young people in government, but young people don't feel like those people in government are speaking for them. So we need to have that. Address drivers of insecurity, not just in a generic sense. Drivers of insecurity that address the perceptions and the experience of the citizen groups, men, women, young people, children, persons with disability, and all of that. Secondly, and finally, will be making sure that we have community-led accountability mechanisms. I have heard two speakers who highlighted accountability, and I'm reaffirming it because it's highly important. But I'm emphasizing community-led accountability. Citizens at the community level should feel they have the liberty and should be seen to be exercising the liberty to call their representatives to account for the services that they offer. And this will be both political leaders, elected and appointed leaders, and anybody else providing service, including contractors. So when you have government contractors that are implementing government projects, communities should have the authority, the right, they do have. They should be able to exercise the liberty to call those contractors. Come and tell us what you're doing. What materials are you using that after a month, the roads are beginning to tear apart? When people, and I'm saying this because if we're looking at the insecurity in Nigeria, it is only when community members have that, are beginning to exercise that right over those who govern them and over those who provide services to them, that you will begin to see insecurity that arises as a fact of people feeling excluded will begin to go down. People are, you have bandits everywhere now. Banditry, somebody 2 days ago said banditry is becoming very popular because it's the easiest way to become rich. It's becoming this way because young people are feeling they have been excluded. This is unfortunate, but true. They are feeling they are excluded. And include these people by making sure you answer their questions when they ask you what you're doing for them and why you're not doing ABC for them. And things will be better. So democracy should be what it was intended for. It wasn't something we were meant to go and study in school. It was something we were meant to live out in our communities. Thank you once again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nathaniel. Imsem Awopila, thank you so much for that wrap up.
I don't know if I was heard at all because the screen froze
that was
bit,
powerful. We got you.
You were heard
completely.
I hope you could.
Yes, we got you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for that recommendations. And I want to believe that we were hot jotting, just like myself. So many things that has been jotted. My books are hot stained, and I believe yours is like that too. So I will just hand over to Winner to continue the other process. I think we are going straight to do a photograph, then we come for all the questions. Please, we'll just take like 3 or 4 because of time, so that our panelists can answer them. So over to you, Winner. So I'm also taking the picture already, so we can just let's go. Please, let's put on our videos as we take a group photograph for this event. So please do well to put on your camera. And thank God it's during the day most parts. So kindly put on your camera. We'll be waiting. Yeah. We'll be taking several shots because of the population. So you can do peace. Don't be too serious. You can do peace. You can. And please smile. This is a youth-led organization. Okay, good to see you, Julian. Yeah. So
what should old people like us do then?
No, you are youth at that, sir. Yeah. So I've taken one.
Okay,
so say
let's
peace.
Peace.
Yes, sir. Okay, good to see all of us. Okay, so I think we have done that. Thank you so much. And so I will just hand over to Winner to continue this session.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Moses, for that. Indeed, this was a very interesting and insightful panel session. If that we had enough time, we'll have just sit down and said, like, our panelists should continue. It was very insightful and very enlightening. Thank you so much for sharing also the recommendation as well. One of our panelists said, it is time for us to take actions as actors, and that is why we are all gathered here, for us to put everything that we've heard today into action. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Moses, for moderating the panel. We'll be moving quickly to questions and answer. I see that we have someone's hand up, but I'll be inviting Juliet Moses to, take the questions and, we'll allow the panelists answer the questions. Thank you. It's Juliet on the call, please.
All right, thank you, Mina. Thank you so much. It's been insightful so far, hearing from all our panelists and everybody about democracy. I think one thing I'm going home with today is there's a difference between participation and inclusion. So it's good, even if we are included, we should also be participating. So we're just going to take like 3 questions because of our time. So some hands are already up. So I'll just call and you just have like 30 seconds to ask your questions, please. Just 30 seconds. So the first hand up here, we have Flavina Charles, yeah? Let's hear your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Not going to take that time, but I just want first to commend the organizers, presenters, panelists and modulators. We really appreciate even the facilitators. So the presentation has been, and the session has been quite engaging, but also informative. So thank you so much. I'm Flaviana from the Great Lakes Legion, the intergovernmental organization of 12 member states of the Great Lakes Legion. And we are working only on peace and security. So I'm the director for gender, women and children, humanitarian and social issues. So I'm coming with first the question, but second to contribute on the Great Lakes experience, particularly taking into account that all of you're aware that for the decades now, the Great Lakes Legion of Africa has been facing a home of the current violent conflict, which is escalating and causing a lot of violence. And the most affected people are the women and children. So when you look at this at the NCGLR, International Conference on Great Lakes Legion, we have come up with a methodology that I hope you can take on board. First, we started on developing the women piece, and I'm talking about the inclusion, which was touched by Mr. Jaye. So what we have done first, we have developed the Regional Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security for the 12 member states, and the head of state have directed all the countries to develop the national action plans. And I'm glad to report all the 12 members that have national action plan. Now, after doing that, we have developed the gender barometer. The gender barometer is a tool for ensuring we monitor, but also we report on the implementation of the women peace and security agenda. And we have started to develop the quota to ensure that the women are involved on peace process, but also on decision-making process. We're talking about the leadership. And we are talking about the leadership from both political, but also non-political. And this is working because now we have decided during the summit and the statutory meeting, all the heads of state, they hold each other accountable on the areas that have not implemented. So so far it's working, and we are working closely with the gender ministry in charge of gender. We call them focal points. So all of them, they are accountable for reporting quarterly on how they've implemented the regional action plan, which has been cascaded into national action plans. This is the first. The second is just recommendation to what Laka was presenting, that this is very important to ensure that, and as all of us, to make sure that we have the curriculum from nursery school to the university on peace education and peace and security. And we have been working this, the SHLR, we have developed the manual, and now we are starting to make sure that the member states, they adopt, but also they start working on inculcating education on peace and security to the children who are from nursery to the university level. And there are exams for that. So we want all the 12 member states to ensure that they have this kind of curriculum. As a lecturer also at law school, I've started teaching them about peace education at Law School of Tanzania. So this is very critical and very important. The third one is just a question to Mr. Nathaniel, the first presenter, who was talking about peace education. I just wanted to know what are they doing to ensure that this curriculum actually are developed, because there should be methodology, but also there should be a strategy to make sure that all the schools and all the ministries of education adopt this kind of curriculum of peace education. And then to Mr. Jaye, I just want to ask on the aspect of democracy to human security, talking about looking at the current situation, Mr. Jaye, that where there is a lot of insecurity incidents, where corruption has been institutionalized, where leaders are comfortable and enjoying the benefit of insecurity and the human being suffering, where the leaders and stakeholders are doing war business. I can say war, conflict business, or insecurity business, where the leaders also are enjoying and benefiting out of people's suffering in the community. What can we do as agents We have a lot of things in long term, but there's an urgent matter to make sure that we change this kind of system, this kind of practice at the moment. We've been building capacity. We've been creating awareness. We've been advocating for change of policies and laws and everything. But until now, nothing has changed. I just want to know what can be done. I just want to learn out of your vast experience in this area. What can be done as a matter
Thank
of
you so much.
so that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you for being here from
Thank
all
you
the
so
way
much.
from the East Africa.
All right. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you for your questions and your inputs. Okay, Mr. Nathaniel, you might want to answer her first question. Hello, Mr. Nathaniel, are you there? Oh. Is anyone hearing me?
Yes, you're audible.
Do me a favor, just
Okay.
rephrase it.
It's asking
I
whether
can hear
she
you. Do
asked
me a
whether there
favor,
is
just
a.
rephrase the question for
Okay.
me because the line was breaking at some
Yeah.
point.
He was asking about
All
whether
right.
you have curriculums developed for delivering peace education
From
and
nursery
what that
school
looks like.
to, yeah. Did you get the question, sir?
His network must be really bad.
You can take the response from Mr.
Okay,
Jaye.
asking whether curricula have been developed for delivering peace education.
Yes.
Yes, and what are the mechanisms,
Yeah.
whether you have those and how
Yeah, network
they
is a
work.
bit difficult now, but I'm just trying to. Did you say she asked whether the curricula have been developed for delivering peace education? Was that the question?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And what does that look like? What does the mechanism look like? How is it going?
Okay. So I guess. Okay. So. Okay. So I think Moses would be a better expert at addressing this question than myself, but let me just say that, and that's because I have, it's been a while since I checked that. I guess she was probably referring to Moses, but I think we have had experimentation of peace education programs, projects, interventions across the country, but they have often been led by civil society and other bodies rather than by so much by government. I think government has adopted here and there. I think at the university system, there was a requirement. I think that has been implemented. Dr. Gaskia can address that, because he's very well informed about that too. But I think there's a requirement, I think statutory, that at the undergraduate level, I think as part of GST courses, that the general studies programs, that peace education be included in the curriculum. But I don't know if how well that is happening. In universities, we are peace and conflict studies programs or peace and development.
Okay, since the network went up again.
Studies or whatever designation they are given, university offers peace and university does. I don't know whether it's University of Calabar or Cross River State University, one of them. They do. Dr. Neji is there as one of the heads of the program. But it's not all. Now, coming down to secondary, the other tertiary institutions apart from universities, no, I think it's minimally implemented. And then coming down to secondary levels, I think it's you have it done here and there. But having said this, and that is because I'd like Moses to add his voice to this. He's the one doing the core, the heart of peace education, and I hope he can address this more eloquently. Moses, over to you, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So I know in that question there is one for Mr. Jaye too. Okay, maybe before we come to Mr. Jaye, please you can go ahead and I will just come after you, sir.
Yeah. So essentially, for me, the response to this is that, and I think that Moses made a reference to this in his when he started opening remarks. And this is the fact that when he was saying that we should begin to ask ourselves this very difficult question: for how long, how much longer are we going to continue to engage? Are we going to continue to engage? Are we going to continue to propose? And so on and so forth. Understanding very, very clearly that the real challenge with governance and the personnel of governance, particularly the political elite, is not that they do not know. That's not the real challenge, really. For the bureaucracy and the civil service, yes, you may have some of those challenges and difficulties in terms of the constraints that the political class puts on them. But for politicians who have become complicit in the crisis, who have become who benefit from the crisis, who have become insecurity entrepreneurs, and so on and so forth. And I mean, I can say this. I mean, just like Flaviana said. I mean, look at our country. If you look at Nigeria today, and you plot a graph of the moments when you have sudden spikes in insecurity, and you plot it with our electoral circles, you can almost see a fit. Every election cycle, you see a spike in insecurity. And so it has left people to wonder, including the governor of Benue State, Father Alia, to wonder out loud, to say, to what extent are politicians complicit, in this situation? So when you have that kind of situation, therefore, for me, I think that it's time for us to also begin to merge the capacity building, the peace education and peace awareness raising that we are doing, to merge it also with active citizen organizing and mobilizing. I think that citizens as the victims and recipients, as the victims of insecurity and recipients of bad governance, need to become political. And I'm saying political, not partisan. They need to become political in their own interest, and understand that part of the way in resolving the challenges before them is actually in the political sphere, because it is governance. And so if they are not engaging there, they are not engaging, and not engaging as individuals, but engaging as collectives, and the different communities, geographical communities, but also, for example, professional communities. You have a society or a community of practice of peace workers, for instance, engaging in that way, engaging associationally in that way, but becoming very political, making political demands of the political class. And then, and by that way, we can also improve the life of our democracy, by also then ensuring that there are then consequences, that is electoral consequences, for not, responding to disorganizing and mobilizing of the people. And in some instances, this I can say this that this has worked at local level, at local and community level, where you are doing that and mobilizing against community leaders, or mobilizing against or mobilizing to ensure that community leaders become more responsible, or that corporations that are fueling crisis and conflict are held to account, and that local government officials work. The challenge is that this has not moved beyond community level to organizing on a mass scale, statewide, and then nationwide, on just issues, just engage on issues at all. So for me, that would be the way to it. And then for very quickly on peace, on that peace education and peace curriculum, I think I think we need to start really looking. So there are two things for me around peace education curriculum. So it's important that for every context, we develop what a peace education curriculum will be, for that context. That becomes the foundation. And it then becomes the next stage that is the most significant one in terms of how do we now influence and uptake, is to also then ensure that this peace education curriculum then becomes mainstreamed into the general curriculum, so that we blunt the distinction between peace education and education, because all education should be for peace, because all education is about human society. So to be able to get to that stage where we blunt that distinction, but we need to have something distinct that we can then mainstream, and to ensure that we can see its ramifications through all the other aspects, of education. That's what I would say for now. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, sir. That is even eye-opening too, and I'm so sure that yourself and you, two of you who are profs in practice, you will be supporting us as we go on this journey. So just to add, just like Mr. Nathaniel has mentioned that I should add my voice to this. So PEPNET has been working on peace education manuals since 2020 thereabout, I mean, from the draft and all that. But it became so evident in 2023 when we have our first peace education training manual for non-formal setting, because at that time we are even more focused on out of school children and other categories. So, and I know that Flavinia, we met in, I don't know if I gave you a copy of this in Nairobi when I came for the conference. I remember, I think I did, and we have a conversation around that. But at that time, we were pushing it for national integration in Nigeria, but we were getting a negative feedback. They did not even attend to our request. Flavina, you want to say something? I want to be sure. Yeah.
Yes,
you have a copy of
yes,
it.
we met in a global, we met in the Global Peace Foundation's Global Peace Foundation in Nairobi, and I got those books. I'm using it to train my people in East Africa and the Great Lakes region. We really appreciate for your documentation.
Wow, thank you so much. I think your network is having an issue. But what she's saying is that she has been using this. I don't know if she can hear me and if anybody can hear me. Winner, can you hear me? I think her network is bad. So, but what she's saying is that I gave her, she got a copy of this, and she's using it in our region. While we have been trying to integrate in Nigeria in 2024, they stressed our lives out in trying to get NERDC. One, the location of NERDC was very funny, and we stopped at that point. And it was that point I was going to different countries, and different countries actually reach out, Kenya, Tanzania, and other places, for me to come and teach their teachers and see how we can work together. While those processes were still on, I felt like, no, Nigeria should formalize it first before we go out. But waiting, we wasted, don't let me say waste, because in that process, we were reviewing the methodology and everything. We spent more than 1 year. And this year, we went back to NERDC. For those who are not aware, NERDC is National Education Research and Development Council. And we try our best to want to partner and integrate, because our plan right now is to integrate into that system, so that it's not like a standalone project. And we did that. We gave them several copies. We've printed several copies. We've gone there. And we even paid for the processing of the assessment, because we want it to be assessed and integrated by the government, so that it will be, even we'll still go to the extent of getting it integrated into NECO and WAEC, because we have our activities and what we will work, everything is already there. The other thing, we are also even planning to have another one for different levels. So this one is for senior secondary school, SS1 to 3. We are planning to we are working on other drafts, but we want this one to be integrated into the system. But for 2 years, it has been it's been difficult. While other countries are already interested and they are willing to work with us, what we are thinking is also not to be too delayed by them. We have given them everything we think they need, but they just told us this week that the NERDC changed the model of submission. After we submitted in April. And now they are telling us that they changed their institutional policy or something. We are still here to meet them to finalize what they are saying, because it's not, we might be taking them for a mediation case the way it's going, if we have to pay another money or do other thing. But that's on a lighter note. Just to say that there are different levels, and that's on institutionalizing this curriculum. On methodology, that's another conversation that might last a little longer. But I want to say that we are doing our best. We have more than 40 not curriculum per se, 40 books that we are planning to write between now, and I mean, that's PEPNET now, planning to write between now and 2030. 40 books that we have the plan already. We will be reaching out to different organizations, because we cannot do this thing alone. It's a big work. Even for Abuja and North Central alone, to understand that context that Mr. Jaye was talking about is something that you need to do research. You need to carry out so many needs assessments and baseline reports and all that, so that you understand different contexts. And you will do some what's this thing now? You will do a lot of piloting before you even come to reviews and all that, just like we did for this one. But this one is more generic for an understanding, a broad understanding. But we believe that if this can be integrated, because this seems to, this seems to capture a lot of topics and capture Nigerian situation and Africa. It's not even Nigeria, more of African broader stuff. But if we can get this done properly in Nigeria, we can scale up to West Africa, and we can scale up to Africa. So that's the plan. And maybe in other conversation, we will still discuss this further. But there's a lot of work on this. We will need more partnership. With the one we have already, is exhausting, even doing printing and publishing. So we are still trying to galvanize partnership, ensure that we don't want to sell it the way we plan it. We don't want it to be something to be sold, but we cannot also do that without proper funding, support, and other partnership involved. And that is why we will be making a call, which I will still be making an announcement. Let me just even say it now. Currently, we are working on our board, either the board of trustees and advisory board, and we are expanding because of the enormosity of this work. So let me stop here before I start entering the mode of speaking. Winner, over to you. I don't know if, and I hope I've been audible all this way. Winner, you are muted. You cannot mute.
All right, sure, I can hear you. All right, thank you so much for that. And to our panelists who have been able to answer the question, I'm sure that the question has been extensively, responded to. Thank you so much for joining us from your country. We appreciate your presence. Okay, we'll be moving quickly. We'll not be taking any other question. But if you have some questions too, you can put it in the chat box, then we'll find a way to respond to it later. But we are way beyond time, so we need to move quickly. I'll be welcoming Joy to take the key reflection for just a minute. Then, we'll call it a day. Thank you. Over to you, Joy. Is she on the call? Joy, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mr. Moses?
Yes, I can hear you. Joy, are you there? Possibly, I know she's also having issues with her network. I think that's also another security challenge we must deal with. Yeah,
Absolutely.
because where we have network issues is also a problem. So, Joy, are you there? So what might happen is the communique might be communicated via other means later. We'll be sending the recording to the link to the recording of this engagement to us either via WhatsApp or via email as much as we can, and we'll see how that will be communicated. And you might also see it, you should see it on our website very soon. So I think Joy is having issues with her network most likely. So we can move on to the next aspect of the program.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moses. Like you said, we're going to conquer network someday. All right, so let's move quickly to Vicent. I don't know if Vicent is on the call as well. You should take the vote of thanks. Thank you. Is Vicent on the call?
Okay, no, I think maybe he has dropped to because of network. So let me just do the vote of thanks before people drop off. I know, especially our panelists, I want to say thank you so much for doing this with us, for supporting us on this special edition of Gaze Dialogue. We started this in 2021, but not with the name Gaze Dialogue. We just celebrate Democracy Day. But we know that this is very integral to what we do at Peace Education and Practice Network, because if there is no good governance, peace might be very, very scarce. And that is what we have been able to do together. Special thanks to Mr. Jaye Gaskia. Thank you for the support. Thank you for giving your time for this. Thanks to Mr. Nathaniel Imset Awopila. Thanks to Mrs. Raquel Kasham for this opportunity. Thanks to Dengiefa from Canada. Don't mind my lightning. Thanks to Dengiefa Angalapu. Thanks to Zigwa Tagwai. Thanks to Flaviana from Great Lake region. Thanks to different people I'm seeing on this call that I might not, because of time, mention all your names. But if you know me, you know I really want to mention everybody's names. And thank you for joining, because you value us. You want to do this with us, and you value peace building in Nigeria, not just PEPNET. You are really concerned about this movement. And this is a movement for change that we are doing together. I want us not to just end it here. I want to say we will appreciate it more if you continue doing it in your own space. If you have major interest, especially, I will also be using this to announce that we'll be making a call for board of advisory going forward, and in the future we'll also be calling later on specifically for board of trustees member, because we are doing some work behind the scene. You can see our website. We are reworking everything to meet the next phase of our engagement. We are meeting with different people across government, across institutions. So this is a great work that we cannot do it alone. Your support, your presence, and your engagement really go a long way to help us build a sustainable peace and development, a peace and developing country. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. We really appreciate you. And thanks to our moderator, the person of Winner Ogogo. Thanks to PEPNET team. We have almost everybody on the call. Jonathan Saba, our project manager. Joy, we have Juliet, and a lot of other people joining in. Vicent, I think most of them joined in, but maybe due to network and other issues, they've dropped off. But I want to say thank you once again for doing this with us, and we still have a lot of great things to do together this year. And those information, please look out for them. And if there is any idea coming to your mind, feel free to reach out to PEPNET via different means. So I want to say thank you so much for being a part of this and for doing this with us. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Moses. Thank you, everyone, for being part of today's conversation. It has actually been very engaging and intriguing. Like I mentioned, that we have a very robust network of expertise with decades of experience, and that we've actually seen on the call. It has actually been very insightful and enlightening. And now it's for us to take action. We've had the discussion, and as actors and peace builders, it's time to, take action wherever we are in our community and even in our country. I want to appreciate everyone who has been on the call with us from the onset until now. Thank you for your patience, and apologies for the extra time it took from you, sorry. And special thanks to our keynote speakers and panelists. Thank you so much. We appreciate and we are honored to have your presence with us. It's that time where we draw the curtain and say bye-bye till we meet again. All right, together for peace. Thank you.
Yeah, together for peace. So you can
All right, thank you.
you can just say hi and you can log off. Thank you. Good to see
Peace
you.
out.
Yeah, good to see you, everyone. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
good to see you, Innocent. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Dear Moses, well done always. You're
Yeah, thank you
always
so much, Mr. Nathaniel.
always creating new pathways. Well done. Well
Thank you
done.
so much, sir. Thank you so much. Yes,
More
sir.
grace.
Yeah, we'll reach out to you too for more stuff. Yeah,
It's all right. It's all right.
thank you so much, sir.
Thank you,
Mrs. Oyintara and everyone.
No.
Okay, I will end the call in a minute. But you can say hi. Songo from that's Burundi, right? Good to see you, brother. Miss Charity, good to see you. A lot of people, Samson, Sheu, Ata, Joy, thank you so much. Zigwai, thank you so much, my dear friend. Yeah. Juliet, everyone, thank you so much. See you on another one. Thank you so much. PEPNET team member, you can wait on the call. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So every other person, you can leave. Thank you so much. Okay, or better still, we can just end it and we meet at another spot. So let's just end this call, then we'll meet possibly on our own group. Thank you so much.